We talking about the undocumented who break laws. You can't be asylum seeker over here breaking laws. Why are you here trafficking if you were being trafficked? Why are you over here murdering if you were being murdered or attempted murdered? Okay. If we just go ahead and give up what they want, which is the ones who came here with the problems, causing the problems, que causan violencia, que causan terror, right? If we can get rid of them, then everyone can be in peace and harmony and go fill out the rest of their paperwork so they don't get deported next, right? Okay. Dale prisa en la fila, okay, para tus papeles, mami. Okay. This will narrow. Solo tiene 30 minutos, okay? Like y'all want to take these people and march them out into a way out into a path that they cannot recover from, that you won't be on with them. Cause you're good. You're just trying to make it seem like you out here in the battlefields with them. Go get them the legal representation to be legal, to get the legal paperwork so they can sleep at night, and you can too. They're skeptical, they warn, but they have no other solutions except to have them waiting in lines around the block in the cold with their babies on the corners, begging with candy. Maybe they got some of them Skittles with the Z. Maybe that's why Brandon didn't want him to ban it. He said, I gave them their startup money for the hemp Skittles. And I need that back. Hold on. Let me make sure the sounds are. All right, 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready for the go. I'm so old. What do the children know about that? 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready for what? It's like the math wouldn't math with that. You guys don't even have shows to go to, let alone can you go unsupervised or with, less than $40. I don't even know. All right, so today, hello, how are you? Thank you for joining me. I'm Nicole Coco Patrice, and I am glad you made your way to my channel. I thank everybody for subscribing, sharing, liking, commenting. You guys are really helping my channel grow. Trying to get it, to 500. So we're almost there. So we both, me and y'all gotta keep pushing, right? So if you can continue to do that and make sure you're hitting the notification bell. But I thank y'all for your support thus far. So let's just get into what I have for you today. I am absolutely just flabbergasted at just the way people are doubling down, in light of Trump, taking office. Democrats have been showing little restraint in coming out and, making everything about race and being defensive and using all sorts of tropes to avoid blame for their policies and blame for the way that they're managing their cities and their states. A lot of major cities are democratically led. So to act as if that's not the fact, is to just deny reality. And so when you're looking at criticizing large cities, you do have to take into account whose policies are shaping those cities. Looking at that fact is not politicizing the city. It's just pointing out the fact that the politics of those in charge have created an agenda that is now almost insurmountable and could be devastating or lethal, So, right now we've got the fires going in LA. Karen Bass is taking a lot of heat. We're going to talk about that. But first, I want to definitely talk about my hometown, Chicago, and what is going on right now. It seemed like JB Pritzker and Brandon Johnson are throwing shots at each other, pot shots, over over hemp. So there's different products of synthetic hemp that are being pushed around in gas stations and stores, smoke shops, and places that sell cannabis products. So it's decriminalized. It's not federally legal, but it's decriminalized in states. And so you have the sales of it, and it's making a lot of money for municipalities and states. And regulation of it was, touted as allowing the government to control it and make sure it's safe and also return that money back to, the public to help with certain issues. I believe they namely were, adding it to like mental health and housing issues, and I believe like education were to be addressed, if I'm not mistaken, by the hemp, which would make the most sense in my opinion. Sales. But so now on the table we had like these different products that are basically more so you see like those like Skittles, but it's got like a Z on it, or like it's like these different products that they look like legit like snacks that you would buy like at a store, like a kid would get from a gas station or in a food desert, right? Where they don't have real groceries and they're not used to eating fruit and vegetables because they've been, acclimated to living off of, dried processed foods, right? And so in these same places, you have these products that are prevalent in these areas, as well as the fact that they don't already have food and things of that nature. They have food, but it's just not the best quality of food, right? And so we have to look at how all this plays into the democratic landscape. You know what I mean? Where did the food deserts come from? How have they been allowed to persist so long? That's a conversation for another day, but it is a question that we have to ask in light of some of the recent events and criticisms that have been going across the table or within the media between our dear mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, and our dear governor of our state, JB Pritzker, who is a billionaire and wants to run for president, it looks like eventually. But we'll have to see, because, he has to make sure he severs his ties with this cancer of a administration in Chicago, as well as his issues that may be, lingering with Mike Madigan downstate. So we have a lot to talk about, but let's get into it. JB and BJ, nuck if you buck. So yeah, so it looks like the woke mind virus could very well be helpful in the case of trying to protect the children from the hemp products and things like that. But it just goes a little south when it becomes like a fight just to be fighting, and then now people don't even know why we're fighting or what we're fighting about. Like, you guys were on the same side about some of these things, and now you're not. You need funding from this guy, and now you're just like beefing with him. It's just really crazy. But let's get into what had been said. Firstly, let's look at this. Looks like someone pulled up a recall, a bill for the ability to recall any legislator in Illinois. So it looks like Illinois Rep. Dan Ugasti, Republican of St. Charles, has filed legislation that would give voters the ability to recall local elected officials. Illinois HB 5924 would allow for any local government official elected during a general or consolidated election to be recalled. So I found that on Twitter under Matt Podgorski 9. And so in light of that, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do with you, man? Can we get rid of him now? Who knows? I think they said, still wouldn't possibly be able to do it, but we can hope, right? All right. And there's his pretty self. All that 30K he spent. It's really going to work. All right. So that's good news for our future, but we still got to deal with the now. And it seems like Brandon is just, he's going to collaborate until he can't collaborate no more. We're going to take this collaboration, whether we like it or not.
So there were some sharp words today from Governor JB Pritzker directed at Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson.
The governor did not hold back on his disappointment after he suffered a rare defeat. He was unable to gather enough votes for a bill that he really wanted. Our political reporter Marian Ahern joining us now. She spoke to Mayor Johnson today in a rare one-on-one.
Good evening to both of you. Yes, just when you thought all the Democrats, they agreed. Not so in Illinois tonight. The governor was pushing for a bill to regulate the hemp industry. It has turned out to be quite lucrative, and yet there are concerns it could be dangerous if in the hands of children. Without reaching out to the governor, the mayor behind the scenes helped block the bill, and the governor is not holding back.
I was tremendously disappointed.
Governor JB Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson at odds, more publicly than usual. While they've disagreed behind the scenes, not quite like this.
He calls me whenever he needs to. He doesn't call very often. Maybe in the time that he's been mayor, he's called me perhaps 5 times.
Pritzker favored a bill to regulate hemp sales. It's becoming more easily available, found in cookies or drinks at convenience stores. But the mayor, as well as Speaker of the House Chris Welsh and the Black Caucus, helped block the governor's bill. Why?
We're all in agreement with regulation, particularly strict regulation around the hemp industry. Listen, I want to protect young people.
But to go against the governor and to already have this conflict this early on in the year, when you talk about state partners for education, will that not end up being a tough one to reconcile?
So there's no conflict. We both agree that we have to have strict regulations.
Pritzker says communication between he and the mayor is so poor that in December, the governor related, this is what happened.
Once in December, we by the way, scheduled calls, and then they didn't show up.
That caught State Comptroller Susana Mendoza's attention. She noted on social media, collaborating requires active engagement. Mendoza is mentioned as a possible 2027 mayoral candidate. I asked Johnson about his low approval poll numbers. Does the negative press bother you?
Oh, I don't particularly get moved by people's opinion of me. Here's what I was elected to do, was to stand up for working people.
Back to the hemp sales. That regulation.
I'm sorry. I can't stop looking at this filled in beard. Do y'all see this? Y'all know y'all see this. This man has this beard. It's giving Carlos Boozer, y'all. He got this beard filled in, sir. I'm done. Like, he's so worried about the wrong things. Do y'all see this spray painted beard? I can't even get over it right now. I didn't even know it was this bad. I didn't even know. Look at all the makeup. He looked good to himself. Oh, anyway, how you gonna spend that? So you're gonna say we both want the same thing, but you went behind his back to try to block something that would have regulated the products, that would have probably kept them more than likely out of the hands of children, but you wanted to have it happen. So what? You can hold it, what's the end game? Like she said, like Marian Ahern said, you've already made a big fuss with him before, privately, publicly, everywhere. You're not collaborating with him as you think you are, and then now you're risking whatever other discussions, whatever other negotiations, budgets, concessions, help, grants, funding, whatever it is you possibly need from him to help him support you. You're not gonna get it. And then not only that, you're talking big stuff about this sanctuary stuff thing, city stuff, and Holman's coming. And at the end of the day, like, the state and the federal government could very well work all this out without your help, and you would be looking really, really silly. I know Ray Lopez and Tabares supported a bill to have the migrants who were criminals. Let's see if I can pull that up. All right, here it is. So I think I saw this on the actual Block Club's Instagram, and it was so interesting seeing the flood. The mind state is so different from Twitter to Instagram. Just you see the mental farming that's happened on Instagram, and then you see Zuckerberg now coming out trying to dial it back a little bit because you see how out of control everything is. But it may be too late, Zucky. So here we go. City Hall, Block Club, Chicago. 2 aldermen want to change the sanctuary city rules ahead of Trump's term, allowing cops to work with ICE. Aldermen Ray Lopez and Silvana Tabares want to see certain crimes exempt from the city's welcoming ordinance, which prevents Chicago police from cooperating with federal agents when they arrest an undocumented person. So to change that language would allow the police to be able to expedite the process instead of having all these different people working against each other, instead of having, people trying to hide, and harbor criminals who are terrorizing not only the citizen population of Chicago, but also the migrant and the undocumented population of Chicago, probably even more so because they're afraid to speak out and get help. So, whatever. Chicago, 2 alder people are pushing for Chicago police to be allowed to coordinate with federal immigration officials when undocumented residents are arrested or convicted of certain drug-related crimes, something that is not currently allowed. Why? Something that is not currently allowed. Why? Ask yourself. Under the city's welcoming city ordinance, we welcome all the criminals. We welcome all of the terrorists. How could this go wrong? We welcome anyone. We don't care what you've done. You can come here. Everything's great. All right, back to the article. Alderpersons Ray Lopez of 15th and Silvana Tabares of 23rd wards filed a notice this week that they intend to bring an amendment to that ordinance up for a vote at Wednesday's full city council meeting. And so that would be coming up. Was it this week or the next? Yeah, it should be coming up this coming week then. Yeah, this is coming up this coming week. So this is very important, guys, that if you're able to get down to the city council meeting, you guys get down there this Wednesday, because they will be trying to shut down the welcoming city ordinance again. And they did that before and put their hands on Emma Mitts, and then she forgave everybody, and now we back to this again. So let's try it again. Tabares and Lopez want to see the current welcoming city rules tweaked to allow police and officials to work with federal agents when they've arrested or convicted undocumented immigrants of certain crimes. The added categories would include gang-related activities, selling and buying drugs, prostitution, human trafficking, and sex crimes involving minors, according to the ordinance text. This is our mayor, wraparound services, want to protect everybody. He wouldn't work with the communities, the police. He wants to keep us safe as Chicago. Why would you be against this? What would be the problem with this? Why would anyone, Pritzker, anyone want to tell me what your problem is with protecting your constituents from gangs and drugs and trafficking and sex crimes involving minors? Anybody want to speak up now? Okay. Chicago's welcoming city status, also known as sanctuary city status, has been subject to, I hope y'all can see that, has been subject to, I lost it. Blah, 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 blah. Here we go. Has been subject to much controversy and confusion in recent years, especially since migrants began arriving en masse in Chicago in 2022 and were offered temporary housing and other services. That's where the confusion started. Even Block Club Chicago knows it. The confusion was when you started telling people they was going to get stuff for free. Okay. But the designation does not require Chicago to spend money on migrants or any new arrivals. There was the confusion. You see it? Block Club Chicago. They even see it, even though y'all kind of proposed you pick the picture of Ray and Tabares so they look like they're up to no good, like they're selling out the Latinos. You make sure that picture looks like, hey, Ray's sneaking his little billfold in his pocket there. She looks like she's a little scared. What are they gonna do to me? Right? That's the picture you're giving. That's the way you guys frame some of this stuff. 2 aldermen want to allow cops ahead of Trump's term to work with ICE, which prevents Chicago police from cooperating with federal agents when they arrest an undocumented person. An undocumented person wants to see certain crimes exempt. Yeah, certain crimes. We do. Tell them which ones. Dígales los que importan. Los más que importan que protegen a los niños. Ajá. No. O a los personas mayores, ¿no? Los débiles de la sociedad. Pero yo no sé. But the designation doesn't require Chicago to spend money on migrants or any new arrivals. We just made the money part up and then put our hands in the way. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm interrupting the great story Block Club has spun here for us. My bad. Under the current law, which was strengthened by former Mayor Lori Lightfoot in 2021. So we got to give my girl Lori some credit, right? The ordinance instead bans Chicago police, bans the police. Take the cuff off the police. That's what Willie was trying to do, y'all. Bans the police and law enforcement from enforcing the law. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me stop putting my spin on this. From cooperating with federal agents, such as ICE, in all cases when they arrest a person who is undocumented, according to WTTW News. A push for a vote on the proposed changes comes less than 2 weeks before President-elect Donald Trump, who has promised to commence mass deportations, will once again take office. Last month, Trump's incoming border czar, Tom Homan, pledged that undocumented immigrants in Chicago would face mass deportations under the new presidential administration, and said he would prosecute. Someone's not scared. Mayor Brandon Johnson. Said he would prosecute Mayor Brandon Johnson if the mayor continued to harbor and conceal asylum seekers. That language is very specific to law, sir. You hear harbor and conceal? Harbor and conceal? Okay. Now, see how they said harbor and conceal asylum seekers? I want y'all to see that bull crap right there, because you can't harbor and conceal asylum seekers because they are not being concealed because they've already declared asylum. We talking about the undocumented who break laws. You can't be asylum seeker over here breaking laws. Why are you here trafficking if you were being trafficked? Why are you over here murdering if you were being murdered or attempted murdered? Okay. Reached by phone on Wednesday. Lopez said amending the welcoming city ordinance will show the incoming Trump administration that Chicago leaders are open to working with them. And it could save undocumented people not charged with any crimes from being deported. Like, why can't y'all see that? If we just go ahead and give them what they want, which is the ones who came here with the problems, causing the problems, que causan violencia, que causan terror, right? If we can get rid of them, then everyone can be in peace and harmony and go fill out the rest of their paperwork so they don't get deported next, right? Okay. Dale prisa en la fila, okay, para tus papeles, mami. Okay. This will narrow. Solo tiene 30 minutos, okay? This will narrow the scope of Trump's net in the city of Chicago and allow us to coordinate the federal government to appease the goals of the administration, while more specifically protecting the tens of thousands of individuals who are undocumented in our city, who follow the laws every single day and who are trying to prevent from becoming collateral damage, Lopez said. So eloquently spoken. Ray Lopez be killing this. I don't know what y'all be listening to. But several other alder people and immigration advocates are skeptical of the proposed changes and warn that allowing police to cooperate with immigration authorities could hinder efforts to improve public safety while placing undocumented immigrant communities at risk. They're skeptical, they warn, but they have no other solutions except to have them waiting in lines around the block in the cold with their babies on the corners, begging with candy. Maybe they got some of them Skittles with the Z. Maybe that's why Brandon didn't want him to ban it. He said, I gave them their startup money for the hemp Skittles. And I need that back. Ay, Dios mío. The law, the law is intended to make sure we protect immigrants and that we're making sure the law enforcement can do their job, said Erendira Rendon, president of Immigrant Justice at a nonprofit, The Resurrection Project. The amending welcoming ordinance also responds to a narrative that distinguishes good and bad immigrants and dehumanizes them, says Nubia Willman. Amending the welcoming order also responds to a narrative that distinguishes good and bad immigrants and dehumanizes them. Says the director of the Office of American. I don't like that. Talking about distinguishes good and bad. You see, I had to read it like 3 times to be like, girl, what are you talking about? So she's trying to spin this because she's saying it's basically feeding into this narrative of there's a such thing as a good and a bad immigrant and dehumanizing them. There's a such thing as a good and a bad every damn thing. Wake the fuck up, Nubia Willman. This is the chief programs officer for Latinos Progresando, and she's gonna have todos los Latinos que están tratando progresar, que intentan progresar, ellos van a inundir con todos los que quieren terrorar, hacer la violencia, el terrorismo entre las comunidades. Y aunque ella sabe que sí, en realidad hay buenos y hay malos en cualquier comunidad, ella va a ignorar esos hechos y ella va a tratar a pintar todo como una película Disney o algo. No, no es real. Nubia, get a grip here. Woolman was also the director. Oh, okay, now it makes sense. Was also the director of the city's Office of New Americans. The Office of New Americans. All it takes is you come over here. Whether you did it legally or not, whether you studied anything about our civics, whether you speak the language, whether you respect the country and what it stands for, your neighbors, your community, whether you understand cómo hacemos todo acá. Cuando en América tiene que hacer como los americanos, pero usted no tiene que entender eso, porque tú vas a obtener tu americanidad nuevo, gratis, 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 por nada. No tiene que ganar nada. En cualquier parte del mundo eso puede pasar. Where else can you do this? Where else can you do this? You can go to a country and you can just be like, yo, I'm a new Italian. I don't know shit about this, but I'm here. Give it to me, baby. Bada boom, bada bing. What are you doing? You can't do that. You can't go to China. I'm a new Chinese. Put me on, y'all. Get me up in where I go. How do I do? I don't got it. What? I don't understand language. Speak it to me in English. Give it to me for free. Tell it to me in English. I don't want to wait. Where can you do that? New Chinese, new Italian, where can you go be a new whoever? Just want to know. This rhetoric also assumes authorities are precise in identifying those who are accused of having a criminal record, which is not necessarily correct. So why wouldn't authorities be precise in identifying those people accused of having a criminal record? Oh, I know. Because you had the border fucking overflowing with people and you couldn't get enough ICE agents border patrol to even be able to monitor the border and catch everyone who was crossing. And then the people who did cross and didn't report or who were not able to be verified when they did get caught that they were criminals. Of course, we're not going to cross-reference that because, we didn't care about that in the first place. That's why we had that damn CBP, ABP, whatever the hell. I can't never remember the name of it, but y'all know what the hell I'm talking about, that app. They put that app and they were just telling people come on over, right? And so, yeah, that's why we can't be precise because the fucking records were all messed up in the beginning. And then you don't even add to that. You got people here who are helping them change IDs, change their name, change and hide, do whatever, conceal and harbor. And then you're telling the police they can't do X, Y, Z. So, yeah, it's hard to be precise in who's the criminal. and who has been their accomplice. One of the welcoming city ordinance's main goals is to ensure immigrants call and cooperate with police if they are at risk, witness, or are victims of a crime, immigration advocates said. Removing this protection could jeopardize vulnerable people, including mixed status families who could be the victim of domestic. But this is exactly what Ray Lopez just got through saying. If you have people who are amidst Tren de Aragua, right, and they're in the shelter or they're in the same building with a Tren de Aragua and they're terrorizing the whole floor or the whole shelter, right, and these people are victim of this crime, how do you think they're going to go and report the crime? The police already said they can't do shit to them because of your welcoming ordinance not being revised by this new amendment. So what is the protection for them now? They're going to call the police now for what? For in the first place, they weren't doing it, and then they're going to do it now. You're trying to blame this because they won't need to if you get rid of the people that are terrorizing them. Because it's not, it's not the little kid, them boys from over there, east side going crazy or whatever, just running up on them, right? It's the ones in their own migrant community who know these people have no other way. Who, I'm right next to them. You do the crimes in your proximity for the most part. You're terrorizing your own neighbors, especially when you're already, you're already without. You don't have the resources, so you're gonna do your crimes usually near you. So just all of this is just a freaking logical fallacy. I don't know why are we doing this, Block Club? Why y'all risking these people's lives, Block Club? Removing this protection could make vulnerable the mixed status families. They won't call the police. So we said that. It diverts police resources from public safety duties by adding responsibilities that fall on immigration authorities that they have the ability to do. Nobody said that. All you have to do is have them put the damn in the books, hold them in a cell like they were going to do anyway, and say, hey, yo, make that 1 call, 2 calls. I don't understand why it's not a system. I'm sure it's a database like that you had before, but y'all dismantled it. Please stop trying to make this, like, y'all sound crazy. We not stupid, okay? The immigration authorities can come into the city. There's no real value to deputize police to facilitate their work. I don't see where they're saying to deputize them. So Pilsen Alderman Byron Cicho Lopez, 25th Ward, which we already know he's very much into making America exactly what America does not want to be. A close ally of Johnson and frequent opponent of a Lopez, okay, condemned his colleagues for, quote, trying to score cheap political points, here we go, by lending ears to Trump's narrative, dog whistle, dog whistle, dog whistle, that faults immigrant communities for local and national economic and social problems. Yeah, okay. Trying to score cheap political points by lending ears to Trump's narratives, right? That faults immigrant communities for local and national economic and social problems. Local and national economic social problems caused under whose administration right now? I'll wait, Byron Cicho Lopez. I like the borders open under Biden and Kamala. Local elected officials should work to uphold the city sanctuary city status that has protected I can't get this word out right, immigrants for decades, especially as fear and anxiety are spreading ahead of Trump's inauguration, Cicho Lopez said. I wonder why that's not in quote. Well, I ain't got that in quotes, but okay. Trying to take away safety nets could create more harm and fear when people need to be reassured. They giving him a whole lot of time, ain't they? Other efforts to protect undocumented people from Trump's mass deportation agenda, in quotes, should focus on educating immigrants about their rights and ensuring they have access to legal representation if detained, advocates and officials told Block Club. Why don't they have the legal representation to get the proper paperwork? That's what I'm trying to figure out. If y'all got all this smoke and all of this energy to put into trying to keep them from being deported, why didn't you put all that energy into getting them asylum? Why didn't you put all that energy to making sure they had all their papers in straight in order so they don't have to be living in fear? Do them that service instead of going around, we're going to kick up this smoke for you. Because that just sounds like y'all crazy. Like y'all want to take these people and march them out into a way out into a path that they cannot recover from, that you won't be on with them. because you're good. You're just trying to make it seem like you out here in the battlefields with them. Go get them the legal representation to be legal, to get the legal paperwork so they can sleep at night, and you can too. Lopez said he believes changing the welcoming city ordinance will ultimately limit deportations in Chicago under a Trump presidency. By approving this ordinance, this amendment to the welcoming city ordinance, we are in essence limiting the scope in which we will coordinate in very specific terms, exactly, and keep the feds from having to go roaming neighborhoods looking for individuals, he said. That is what we don't want. Man, Lopez makes so much sense, and I don't even know, like, I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but I mean, it makes sense to me. If you have people for the right purposes, putting people to the side already for doing a crime, and then you just have them there already, and you're like, hey, they did a crime. Oh, and looks like ICE wants them too. Bingo, got a match. Hey, come pick them up, Jim. Thanks, guys. Where is the complication here? Rather than, oh, we're not gonna help you. Ooh, let's hurry up and get him out of here. Oh, he just killed this kid, you know. Let's hurry up and throw him out on the street so ICE can't get him. That's the alternative. Come on now. I mean, you know, if that's what y'all like, tell me. Let me know in the comments below. People wait in this picture, in the cold. Okay, this is the caption. In an hours-long line at the IDHS office. Again, this is that Humboldt Park office we talked about already from December 4th. This picture is. So again, right? They'll be out there. They're trying to let Holman know. Block Club is whose side are you on, Block Club? You said you gave Cicho Lopez a lot of time to try to defend these people, but then you gave the location in the picture of several people that they could, you know, what's going on, Block Club? Little conflicted, are we? The proposed carve-outs are the latest attempt by Lopez and others in recent years to challenge Chicago's welcoming city ordinance. The amendment Lopez is hoping to pass Wednesday was first introduced to City Council in September 2023. The ordinance was sent to the Rules Committee, where opponents often send legislation through parliamentary maneuver to stall or kill it. Lopez and other alder people also backed a full repeal of the welcoming city law in November, but it didn't move forward, and we know why, because people was acting crazy out there. Right. Ramirez Rosa was grabbing on people. Yeah. It says Johnson repeatedly affirmed his support of Chicago's welcoming ordinance, and as it currently stands, something he reiterated in an interview with Block Club Chicago on Tuesday. He says, our local law enforcement is not going to participate in any way with federal agents. We're going to adhere to the law here in Chicago, he said. We're going to adhere to the law here in Chicago, he said. Just this specific law. He couldn't be talking about the rest of them. Couldn't be talking about the rest of them. Now, could he? Yeah, right? Because people trying to get him repealed. He out here beefing with our governor. Okay. And so, yeah, the mayor released a press release on it. He was just talking that jive. Y'all can go look at it on the city website. I was going to pull it up, but I took too long reading that about Ray Lopez. So we got to move on. But yeah, so they clashed over the Hemp bill. Again, it looks like, I'm just going to read this real quick. This is from WTTW, just recapping everything. Brandon Johnson wants the state to come through for him in a major way to boost spending on the city's schools and transportation networks. But Governor JB Pritzker said Johnson and his team doesn't reach out very often, and it seems that they don't have a very good relationship in Springfield. So, yeah, so, you know, collaborator in chief is crazy as hell coming out of your mouth when this is the consensus. Pritzker said the mayor has his direct number but doesn't use it. So we already got through that. Maybe in the Times he's called me 5 times, right? All right. And so he's been in office since 2023. He made those remarks after that intoxicating hemp bill was, sorry, let me slow down. Pritzker made blistering remarks Tuesday about Johnson as well as Illinois House Speaker Emanuel Chris Welch for their roles in stalling Okay, so we got to figure out about what's going on with Manuel Chris Welch. For their roles in stalling controversial legislation the governor had embraced to crack down on intoxicating hemp, resulting in a rare public defeat for Pritzker. The friction set a rocky stage as Illinois heads to what's sure to be months of difficult negotiations over how to close a more than $3 billion budget gap and a deficit that does not include any of the extra spending Johnson is pushing for. A deficit that does not include any of the extra spending Johnson is pushing for. Exactly. So at the same time, Pritzker downplayed the Hemp's measures demise as a victory for Johnson, saying that the mayor's opposition to it had little to do with the lack of success. Johnson's side seems to quell the notion of a brewing battle royale between the city and the state's leading Democrats, people of Chicago and people of Illinois, both constituents that the governor represents, are depending on us to not overly politicize what should simply be a matter of concern for their health, their well-being, their safety, the safety of our communities. Johnson's chief of external affairs, Kennedy Bartley, said. Well, that would be the case, but of course, we're going to make it about, white supremacy and I inherited this problem. Okay, the battle over hemp regulation. So there's an earnest battle over how to handle the increasingly common weed-adjacent CBD products. So they pretty much talked about that in the other video. But yeah, you guys can get into this a little bit more here. But that House Bill 4293 would have heavily restricted the sale of hemp-derived products. The Illinois House recessed without taking it up. So it's a relief to entrepreneurs who are selling hemp-derived drinks, lotions, and other products who say they too favor state oversight and want disreputable operators closed, but that the Senate-approved bill is so strict that it would force their legitimate businesses to close. So there are some legitimate businesses who state that they are not trying to, exploit our youth, are trying to sell, these products that may have some healing value to them, but are being restricted because the law is so restrictive. Okay, so there's frustration among some Black elected officials that the stricter approach will punish business owners who were shut out of the legal cannabis market via a messy and prolonged state licensing process. In mid-December, Pritzker waded into the fray when he came out in favor of the controversial bill and urged representatives to pass it during their lame duck session last week. In the final days of legislative session at a new General Assembly will be seated Wednesday. It's a matter of public safety, citing deaths linked to youth who'd use untested intoxicating hemp. And this is about consumer safety and health. Says in recent days, Johnson's team began working to kill the measure, with some saying that Johnson put on a full court press Monday to halt the measure from moving in the House. Pritzker said the mayor's staff never reached out to him for any of the conversation about the mayor's issues before Johnson moved to defeat it, a breach of regular political protocol, not collaborating at all, a breach of regular political protocol. Especially for members of the same party, okay? They are eating their own, honey. Bartley on Tuesday afternoon stood by Chicago's last-minute lobbying efforts, saying that our opposition is largely rooted in the fact that this felt rushed. We need to be at the table. So when Pritzker made his announcement December 13th, the city was in the throes of securing a city budget, but by an end-of-year deadline. That the legislation had a chance to move during the lame duck season was a surprise, Bartley said. Yeah. So you guys can do what you want to do on your schedule, but then you're going to try to disrupt the state schedule. I don't know, y'all. Hemp regulations were also a minor part of the city's budget negotiations. It wasn't finalized as part of the 2025 budget deal, but Johnson ally Alderman William Hall is pushing for the Chicago to license hemp businesses. The mayor has a well-documented interest in hemp, Bartley said, I'm sure. Bartley said, as someone who cares deeply about youth and their safety, Johnson backs regulation of synthetic hemp products. She said the mayor would have been in full support of proposals in Springfield that would ban anyone under the age of 21 from buying Delta 8 and its cousins, and wished that there was more mobilization behind those stalled efforts. We believe there's a real balance that can be created when we do not rush, that ensures that there is public health and public safety regulations, Bartley said. Despite publicly ripping Johnson for poor outreach in Springfield, Pritzker said the mayor shouldn't be credited with killing the hemp measure favored by the governor. The mayor had very little to do with the ultimate result, Pritzker said. He had to hit his pride. Rather, Pritzker said, it died at the hands of special interests and the money that they spread around to thwart health and safety of the public. Licensed cannabis companies thanked Pritzker for his effort and in a statement said that leaving intoxicated hemp without rules leaves consumers at risk and undermines the state's carefully regulated cannabis market, particularly social equity cannabis license holders who face extensive rules and regulations while those selling intoxicating hemp continue to get off easy. Okay. The governor indicated that he would examine using his executive power to try to protect youth, but said that legislative action is needed to do all that's necessary. Pritzker is likely seething at the perception he was felled by Johnson. Okay, so frayed relationships, right? This is so bad. Like, this is 48 laws of power. It's just Johnson's just going through them like, fuck them all, burn them. Which may have paved the way. He already did it with the DNC. You know, he tried to one up Pritzker with like trying to name somebody that as the chair or do something, and it was like, you are not running this. Pritzker had to let him know, like, baby, bye. And so now he's out of his place again, which may have paved the way for why he unleashed in such a public fashion about the mayor. Oh, hell yeah. Republicans are playing the infighting. The mayor of Chicago is now running the Illinois Democratic Caucus. House Republican leader Tony McCombie said in a statement, not a surprise given the chaos and disorganization on constant display. The speaker scrambles to put out fires within his own party and continues to overlook meaningful bipartisan solutions to critical issues. Okay. Ooh. The email statement had a note on the bottom for background. October 2024, the mayor of Chicago had a 14% approval favorable rating. This chaos and disorganization is an apparent reference to turnover in Welch's staff, most recently with the pending departure of 4 women who've served in top roles as chief of staff, press secretary, chief legal counsel, and legislative director. Clayton Harris III, who unsuccessfully last year sought the Democratic nomination for Cook County State's attorney, will take over as Welch's chief of staff on Thursday. While Pritzker acknowledged the measure is dead, he said it had it been called for a vote, there have been enough bipartisan support that it would have passed. The governor blamed Welch, another Democrat, for holding back the bill. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. So. Yeah, Pritzker said he told Welch it was unacceptable for Democratic legislators to berate state employees. There was a whole thing where they were out there just like really just berating some of the staff behind this meeting about the hemp, and it got kind of out of control, I guess. And Pritzker had to, try to calm everybody down because he thinks he's a collaborator as well. It is his understanding that at least one member has reached out to offer an apology to the governor's staff. So yeah, at least they're trying to calm that down there. So there's a lot going on. Our state's a little out of control, but this hopefully resets the two of them, because I mean, they can say whatever they want, but they're really 2 peas in a pod right now. Even though somebody's taking up a little bit more of the pod than the other should, but okay. So yeah, you don't want to collaborate. You don't want to work on your, you don't want to collaborate. You're beefing with the governor. You're Mr. Collaborator in Chief. I don't get it. Was it really that bad to just try to talk to him on the side? Be like, hey, I don't really think you should do this hemp thing like the way you're doing it. I don't know. Maybe you should help. I care about the youth, man. I care about the youth, even though the drugs might still be in the store. I care about the youth. I care about the youth, even though I was out here marching with CTU. I care about the youth, even though I'm still on CTU payroll, is on leave, okay? And negotiating a contract as a teacher on leave. As the mayor, okay, but okay, I care about the youth. But he doesn't even get help for a grocery store. He wanted to give the kids a grocery store, and he didn't even go ask for the money. Johnson administration passes on state funding for publicly owned grocery store. Isn't that crazy to you? Oh God, that took long enough. All right, here we go. Fucking A. All right, Mayor Brandon Johnson's administration passed on applying for state funding for a city-owned grocery store, raising questions about the future of the bold proposal the mayor floated more than a year ago. Johnson first raised the idea of a publicly owned grocery store in September 2023. He framed the idea as a way to improve food access on the city's south and west sides, the underprivileged, underground communities. You know how he says it. He said it in his sleep, I bet. Where supermarket closures have left many residents with limited access to fresh groceries in their neighborhoods, activists who see groceries as a public good akin to a city water department or post office have long supported the concept. Still, the grocery business is notoriously tough, and critics have expressed skepticism, that the city lacking in-house grocery expertise could pull off the project. This is the problem. Why do we have, like, this is what I'm saying. Y'all think progressivism means I'm going to be mayor and then I'm going to now also be mayor, doctor, lawyer, pastor, caretaker, midwife, police officer, border czar, okay, ambassador to Venezuela, CTU negotiator, liaison, private investigator of Pedro Martinez. You know what I'm saying? What is this? Do your job, sir. And then allow the experts to fill in the gaps. Allow the community, agencies and the advocates who know and have been doing the grassroots work and who know what works because they've done the studies, they've seen the research, they've put out the actual work in the field. Let those people do this stuff. Stop. The public grocery stores that exist are in much smaller municipalities, okay? Chicago would be the first major U.S. city to open a publicly owned grocery store. And if it does, though the idea has attracted interest elsewhere, including New York, if it does so, though the idea has attracted interest elsewhere, including New York City and Atlanta. Ooh, yeah. In December, the city passed on applying for state funding for the project, despite previously saying it would do so. I wonder why. See, you keep talking about being a collaborator, but then all you're doing is burning bridges, and you need these people because you, sir, cannot swim, okay? And you are in toxic waste water, okay? Biden allowed everyone to shit in your water. You are in there trying to get out. Okay, and now you told Bert JB F you, and now look at you. Where's the raft gonna come from? Not Trump, not Pritzker. Who? Stacy Davis? Okay, the churches. I don't know. Who you think? Obama? Who gonna save you, sir? The $20 million Illinois grocery initiative, which Governor JB Pritzker signed into law in 2023, was created to help open or fund grocery stores in food deserts statewide. So there's a specific program, $20 million, that JB Pritzker signed into law last year that this administration, Brandon Johnson, the collaborator in chief, knew about, yet has failed to sign up for. Oh, sounds much like those mock budget layoffs and things and furloughs that they had figured out to try to, avoid taxing us into hell, but never panned out or never came to fruition or even were executed to a serious point, right? But okay. So he signed this into law in 2023 to help food deserts on the black and brown community, west side, south side, disenfranchised, years, daily wrong, right? Municipalities are among the entities that can apply for the funding for up to $2.4 million for each project. Not nearly enough to fund the startup of a grocery store, but it is a place to start. The Tribune filed a Freedom of Information Act request for applications filed by the city for funding under the state program, but found no such records. The first round of state grocery grants were awarded in October, and the deadline to apply for the second round of funding was in early December. A city spokesperson did not comment Monday on the decision not to apply for funding. I wonder why. But you coming to us for money, though. In a memo, and then you're gonna come up with some grand excuse for why this didn't happen, right? And a memo sent to top City Hall staffers August 28th, the mayor's chief of staff, Christina Pacion-Zayas, said she was coordinating efforts to apply for a state grant. She's so busy. She's doing peace circles. She's applying for state grants. She's making sure that staff members aren't being discriminated or harassed. Oh, wait. Staff would be expected to work on tasks like site evaluations and financial analysis to ready the city's application for state funding, Pacion-Zayas wrote in a memo, which the Tribune obtained. In the memo, Pacion-Zayas said HR&A advisors, a consultancy that authored a feasibility study on the municipally owned grocery project for the city, would lead and support city departments in the application effort. HR&A had highlighted the state grocery program as a possible source of funding in its study, which found a public grocery store to be necessary, feasible, and implementable in Chicago. The city has not released the feasibility study despite previously saying it would. Are we surprised? The Tribune and Sun-Times reported on the study in early August. The HR&A consultants were hired by the nonprofit Economic Security Project, a long-standing proponent of public grocery stores that was an initial partner of Johnson's on the grocery project. In a statement, Shara Sahib, director of the Economic Security Project's an Illinois affiliate, said that organizations urge leaders across Illinois to take advantage of the state's resources to help support access to groceries in their communities. I mean, they're telling you that everyone's begging for your collaboration, sir. We're all begging. When will you do it? Please collaborate with us. You're such a star in this town. As corporations have consolidated power in almost every industry, including grocery store operations, they've put profits over people, leaving families with chronic diseases, shorter lifespans. Okay, things that you would think our mayor would be concerned about. Sahib said in a statement, adding that the state program gives municipalities the tools they need to create viable public options. Supermarket closings have plagued the city's south and west sides for years, making it difficult for many residents, especially those who don't have cars or are elderly, to buy fresh groceries. City leaders throughout multiple mayoral administrations have struggled to address grocery store closings, in some cases doling out public funds to bring in private grocers that later closed stores in the city's underserved neighborhoods. Oh, was that Target that on 87th and Cottage, Michelle? Or was that your ward or no? I think it's across the street, so it's not you technically. Okay. Under Rahm Emanuel, for example, the city spent more than $10 million to bring Whole Foods to Inglewood that the company closed 6 years later. $10 million, okay? Yep, I remember that. Proponents of the city-owned grocery store have argued that, then they try to say, well, people over there in Inglewood don't eat those kind of foods. They don't eat fresh groceries. They don't eat organic. They don't eat this. It was out of their price range. So, I mean, it could have been right. Maybe you needed to get instead of a Whole Foods, you should have brought, there's an Aldi over there, but I guess you should have brought a Pete's, maybe, produce. I don't know. What is the solution? Because then maybe you need to start doing educational things. I don't know. Have somebody come out there and do a barbecue or something. Do something outside. Do a, you know what I'm talking about. Do a little cooking show or something. Do the little hibachi, okay? That's what I meant, the hibachi. Because I know if I said barbecue, y'all going to be like, you can't say that because it's black people. All right. Under Rahm Emanuel, for example, the city's I said that already. Proponents of a city-owned grocery store have argued that while opening such a store could be logistically challenging, it would alleviate some of the issues Chicago has faced by making the city less reliant on the goodwill of for-profit grocery companies. Okay, so yeah, so he couldn't even open his mouth to ask for y'all to get nothing in y'all mouth as far as food, even though he know you're in the deserts in the black and brown communities. It's the collaborator in chief. What's the problem, sir? So I'm just really trying to figure this out. So it looks like he didn't call for help with that. He don't call for help. We can't eat. Who's gonna eat the real food? But then you got armed robbers in Chicago arming the people with the food deliveries. Like, What? Armed robbers, the CWB Chicago on Twitter, X. Armed robbers are ordering food deliveries so they can rob the delivery drivers who bring them their orders. A crew struck 4 times in the first few days of the year. You can't deliver food. You're not going to get no Uber. You can't find a store, okay? But you will get the little hemp products. You can go buy you a whole lot of little high Oreos, you know, and go put yourself in a coma. Forget you're hungry. All right, and then back to this. So then you got CTU, right? Jackson Potter says JB Pritzker is a racist. That's fun. Hold on. I got it. Yeah, update. Chicago Teachers Union Vice President Jackson Potter suggests Illinois Governor JB Pritzker recent criticism of Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson is racist. CTU is Johnson's top donor and former employer. Again, with this, Potter and CTU President Stacy Davis Gates have repeatedly criticized Chicago Public Schools CEO Pedro Martinez for not doing enough to lobby Springfield for more money. But the CTU has, in many ways, including comments like this, harmed the district's ability to get help from Springfield. And so this is Jackson Potter's quote: "The white billionaire governor decides to publicly dress down the 2 highest ranking black male elected leaders in the state instead of building a united front to defend our black and brown communities from the imminent MAGA attacks. So much for being a happy warrior." But this was after the man went behind his back and negotiated some stuff. But okay. Yeah, shouldn't it say Johnson's current employer? He's on leave from CTU. He's on union leave from his CPS job. He is not on leave from his CTU job. It's a problem either way. This is according to Austin Berg. You know?
And it seems like they don't have good relationships in Springfield, in part because they don't do the outreach that's necessary.
We asked the mayor about it. After Governor Pritzker said yesterday, you don't have enough communication with Springfield and you don't have enough good relationships with Springfield. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, in terms of how the state can show up on behalf of the people of Chicago, that is a healthy conversation. The last I checked, Chicagoans are residents of Illinois.
The governor also says the mayor has rarely called for help, especially with Chicago's billion-dollar budget deficit.
With regard to his budget, literally the last call that we got from them was in September. And then once in December, we by the way, scheduled calls. And then they didn't show up. The time that he's been mayor, he's called me.
Memorable Democratic National Convention in the history.
The mayor did offer an invite to the governor to come visit Chicago.
And I probably do owe him an invitation to my home. He invited me to his home. My wife and I went there, and, you know, governor, of course, is always welcome to the west side of Chicago.
The vice president of the Chicago Teachers Union is defending the mayor, posting a message on X suggesting the governor's comments are racist. Patrick Fazio, NBC5 News.
Thank you so much, Patrick.
The controversy over Mayor Brandon Johnson's status with the Chicago Teachers Union has taken a new turn. Ethical questions persist about the mayor's role in ongoing CTU contract talks. And now the city's Board of Ethics is weighing in, denying that their office ever advised the mayor on the issue. Political reporter Marianne Ahern is here now with more. Marianne?
Alex, the mayor says he's a member on leave from CTU, which means potentially he may benefit from the very contract the city is now negotiating. This was my first question to Mayor Johnson earlier this week. Let's start with a yes or no question. Is it proper to negotiate a CTU contract if, as a member on leave, you are going to benefit from that contract?
Well, I'm not going to benefit from the contract.
And so then it looks like the Illinois Attorney General is investigating whether they were, negotiating behind their backs. So Kwame Raoul is just going to officially look into that, according to this letter that was sent on December 27th about what was on the agenda and the meeting notes during those meetings, because if they were publicly, they were avoiding public input for this policy, and having private meetings without letting those meetings, and their agendas be made public, that is a violation of certain ordinances and sections of the codes that they're supposed to uphold. So yeah, I don't know. It's looking a little dicey for you there, Mayor. We gotta figure this out. And then you're still doing all this in the name of Stacy Davis Gates, who, God, I'm telling you, the woman doesn't care. She doesn't know. She doesn't care. She doesn't want to care. Listen to how she talks to the people.
Delegates voted to open up our bargaining process. We're coming into your neighborhood to unpack what's in our contract. You don't have to rely on the bullshit Tribune or the freak shows at the IPI. Right. You literally get to engage with us in your neighborhood, at a local church, at a local community center, on what is in this contract for you and yours. And I can't wait to meet you. And I'm happy to say today our House of Delegates.
The body language is giving fuck all this. I'm just doing this because at this point, y'all want this smoke. So here, I'm about to come give it to y'all in y'all face at the church, at the local community center, wherever you want to show up at. I'll be there to tell you what we want. Yikes. So yeah, it says they want remains the only outlet to publish the Illinois policy remains the only outlet to publish the union's 700 plus contract demands in full. CTU leadership has refused to publish their current list of demands. They've also refused to produce an audit for members who were forced to sue them to get copies. Oh, so yeah, there's so many layers to this transparency. She talked crazy, but y'all really want to see her in person? Go ahead, take your trip, all right, and understand that they went to go visit the Venezuelan President Maduro. They were praising him. It was some delegates. They said, hey, it wasn't a CPS sponsored tour or trip or CTU sponsored trip, but it still looked bad. And I'm just trying to figure out, what were y'all down there doing? Y'all think Maduro did a good job? It looks like you do, because what's happening here right now? What's happening here? Shouldn't be surprised though, is what the Tribune says, because like they said, this is what you guys have been asking for. You haven't been paying attention. So you shouldn't be surprised that she went down there, or that some of these people went down there to visit Venezuela, because they've asked for these. Look at this. The Venezuelan economy has been tanking for about 7 years, collapsing under the pressures of singularly oil-based economy. Socialist policies that dictate which days of the week citizens can buy bread and how much. Okay, that's your city-owned grocery store that he didn't apply for, I'm sure. Corruption that even left-leaning news outlets are covering vigorously, and mismanagement of a once vibrant economy through price controls and import restrictions. The elite of Venezuela are doing just fine. It's the citizens who haven't fled yet who are suffering. Okay. Against the backdrop, right? And this came out, this article is from, I don't have a date here. There's no date on here. That's so weird. But this has got to be from whenever it happened, 2019, I think it was like August 2019. Okay. Chicago could have swept. I'm sorry. So while CTU's been clear it did not pay for the 4 members' trip to Venezuela, they went as CTU representatives and met with high-level government officials. Okay. So yeah, they went down there. They're playing like they're the UN. They're doing mock, they're doing Gaza ceasefire votes. And what is going on in the CTU? Why do they feel like there's some globalists? Ask yourself, they want to open up the city. They want to get the raises. They want to open the city-owned grocery store. Hello. So, here they say further down in the same article, that was Venezuela's South American neighbor. This was Peru's ambassador speaking about how the killings, the excessive use of force, arbitrary arrest, torture, ill treatment, and lack of access to justice are concerning. That it was ravaged, in a country that was ravaged by economic turmoil long before Trump took office. And so This was the CTU executive board member Sarah Chambers who went to Venezuela, quoted in an anti-Trump website, quote, "Through major economic hardship, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro never closed a single public school or a single health clinic. This stands in stark contrast to our experience in Chicago, where Mayor Rahm Emanuel closed 50 public schools and several mental health clinics in a single year." These people just, Rahm Emanuel, Obama, Brandon, all these crazy CTU people. What's going on, guys? I hesitate to defend Emmanuel's stewardship of Chicago public schools, but Venezuela's public schools are nearly empty in some inner city neighborhoods because of the constant political turmoil. Exactly. So then you're supposed to just keep the schools open even though there's 2 kids in there. Make it make sense. Emmanuel closed schools, albeit clumsily, that were half empty and needed to be consolidated. He was derided in South and West Side communities, but comparing him to a Venezuelan strongman who many say is starving his people? Chambers also posted on a social media her astonishment that during her trip she didn't see a single homeless person. She and others praised literacy rates in the country and a commune-style culture, okay? Maybe their Venezuelan host took them on a program propaganda tour, as one angered CTU member suggested. Oh, wow. Who would have thought that? Maybe an educated person. The teachers must not have seen areas of Caracas where families occasionally dig through rubbish for food, where women sleep on cardboard boxes outside of grocery stores, hoping to bring home cornmeal, where ATM machines, are empty, hospitals are barely staffed, and where tuna fish and flour are luxuries. So against this backdrop, CTU is heading into the negotiations, and they got their generous raises, and now they want more. This was with Lightfoot when this happened, and according to this article, and now they want more. CTU represents a group of professionals whom taxpayers heavily subsidize with pensions and healthcare benefits. Fully vested CTU members retire with dependable income. This is the group that needs leverage and credibility from rank-and-file Chicagoans as leaders negotiate and potentially call a strike. And they're going to Venezuela, of all places, to find systems to emulate. That says a lot. This was Kristen McQuarrie of the Tribune editorial board. I wonder how she feels about this now. This is aged very well, okay? So yeah, there's clearly some interesting idols that they've taken up here. And so, we shouldn't be surprised by that, and even going more into Stacy Davis Gates and her bad attitude. Here, like Marianne Ahern noted, can we get clarification on these comments? Okay, this is a CTU Facebook group. Justin Weaver Thompson posted, and he's retweeting a quote that says, yesterday at House of Delegates, Stacy said, quote, "Pedro is the terrible student in the classroom that can't get suspended because he has an IEP, okay, and maxed out his days." I remember IEP, I believe, is what is it? I know it's some kind of program, educational, I was going to say improvised. Yeah, there we go. Individualized education programs, IEP. So it's usually for special ed or program for children with disabilities. Okay, so she's saying he's the disabled kid that she can't put out of class. She want to throw him out of class. This is exactly what the problem is. This is why the kids can't read. That's why they out in the streets kicking everything, because you can't figure out how to use their energy in a positive way. What are y'all going to school to train to teach the kids for? Why can't y'all keep these kids in any kind of engaging conversations, engaging learning environment? What are the studies on that? Where are the studies on that? You don't got to go to Venezuela to figure that out. You don't have to go to Venezuela. You don't need more money to figure that out. You can go figure that out right now with what you have right now. How can you use the technology, use what the children are interested in right now, instead of making it about everything else and everything that does not help you or matter right now? These children need you to come and meet them where they are, okay? The children are not going to evolve to where y'all devolve, really, to where y'all are. Y'all are the reason the children are like this in the first place. Find something for them to do positive, okay? Because this is crazy. But you talking to these people like they crazy. Pedro Martinez is the CEO, and you talking about him like he's a child. And then not only that, you're you're making light of disabled children and children with behavioral issues, and you're also making light of teachers who do not take the time to individually care for these children as what an IEP stands for. Okay, so it's already like the authority level that you have, you should be setting some sort of example. And then not only are you trying to tear down the CEO who's trying to defend the children and the taxpayers of Chicago, you are attacking him. And then at the same time, giving every reason why people don't want to support the teachers union in this moment, even, you know, outside of the financial aspect of it, and how, you know, you guys have gotten this generous last contract. And now look at this type of stuff that she spews. So we trust you with our children. You know, I just did a live on Naziah Harris, who was in Detroit and asking for a counselor before she was murdered. Okay, and the counselor never came and showed up. Y'all talking about in Chicago, y'all need money for counselors. Well, you could have got the counselors. You had money. Where are the counselors? If you cut half of your network and administrative offices who basically just cause confusion, who jump in the middle of things and slow down the processes, okay, and really serve as the counselors between the parents who are, you know, incensed by some nonsense going on at the school, and everybody up top, you know, at the board of ed, you're acting as the buffer. Get rid of that. Let me call straight up there and let everybody know how I feel. Get rid of all of them six figures you got in there trying to weed my complaints out, and trying to avoid actually putting the people in the school that you should have been put in there. So you weed all of them out. Then you got there you go, your counselors and your teacher. You got your teacher's aide, you got a counselor, you got a nurse, you got a librarian, all in them network offices. Make the shifts. Okay, and change this attitude, because this is why it's a waste. You're never gonna have a controlled classroom if people are gonna treat children that are on IEPs as if they are blankets. You know, if they're a mass that needs to be controlled as a herd. Okay. So that being said, let's just go ahead and get ready to wrap this up. And so yeah, you know, that ableism, and she's just so rude. Like I don't get why anyone thinks, oh, this is another example of her doing the same thing. Yeah, she definitely has an issue here. Look at this. Has no problem using the term slow as a means of attempting to insult people on the internet who challenge her. Wonder what she meant by that. Lord, are y'all slow in real life? Shame on you for making Vivek and Musk right. The housing was for retired teachers and parents who needed subsidized housing because they weren't paid enough during their active service to retire with dignity. Y'all are either monsters or slowpokes slowpokes or both. So this is someone attacking her about how the teachers were demanding housing. A lot of that's very controversial because they had like another building that they said that they sold. So why did y'all sell the building when y'all could have been housed? These units are well overpriced. You know, the value of them is well, you know, way more than it should be. And it's like, we're not in the business. Like, you're supposed to take care of yourself. Okay. We're not going to house teachers into perpetuity. Spend your money accordingly, please. Everybody else has to. Sorry, this is funny. Gavin Newsom demands answers from whoever's in charge of California. All right, we're gonna get to that one on another one. But yeah, so you know, everything's about gender and race with Stacy, you know, and then she's protecting the black and brown students, but we're not really seeing that. And she's got a lot of questionable stances, and she cannot read the room. And so like finally here, this is her speaking, since we're just talked about Gavin Newsom, who wants to know who's in charge and responsible in California for this nonsense, because this is what they do. This is Mayor Bass, who went silent in response.
Cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor. Have you nothing to say today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
Like, is she just gone catatonic?
For being absent.
What the hell? So I'm sorry, we can't minimize misogyny. This is Mr. Jeezy Blacksy dot social, whatever, on X. I'm sorry, but we can't minimize misogynoir. They are gaslighting Karen Bass the same way they did Kamala Harris. Oh yeah? We as men and allies need to call it out immediately when it happens in real time, because they are already creating a false narrative about her on this app. Oh my God. Yeah, if you cut funding to a very necessary thing that then becomes the exact catastrophic event that everyone was like trying to avoid. Okay. Yeah, she cannot control the wind. She cannot control the fire and where it went, or arsonist or whatever else may have caused this. However, what she could control was the budget. What she could control is where she was at, where she was putting in the work. Okay. And she can definitely control how she's sitting here looking like she's lost for words, don't even know where she is right now. Y'all need to get these people out of these offices. They are not equipped mentally, emotionally, any of that to do the jobs that you've given them. And the consequences can be catastrophic. Okay. So let's get into that a little bit more. So we got the LA fires. Okay.